as a faithful Latter-day Saint woman, what do we need to, like, how do we help young women to not go down this path of the bitter, angry feminist who's 30 and realizes that she's made all the wrong choices up to that point?
And has 7 cats.
The young women of the church are not wanting to get married.
Go on to Instagram and type in like hashtag pregnancy, hashtag mom life. The vocabulary is so negative. Mm-hmm. It's like every girl that Kweku's dating right now is completely freaked out because all she sees is that family life is the end of your independence. It's the end of all happiness. Like, why would any girl want to sign up for that unless she has a trusted person in her life saying, you know, I love being married. Feminism is wholly incompatible with the doctrine of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Yeah. There it is.
How can you're an experienced young women's president. You've been helping a lot of young ladies as they're in their formative years, getting ready to enter adulthood and face the world and all of these moral and physical challenges. What have you found to be effective in helping these girls have a moral compass on this issue that works and prepares them for the battlefield that is adult womanhood?
Oh, that's a great question. So I'd say the first thing is you do need to teach the doctrine, because if people don't know the doctrine, they can't even make the choice.
So they need to watch more Faith Matters Foundation videos on this subject. Is what
right? Like they're already
Jacob Hansen recommends. No, I'm just kidding. So what'd you say? You cut out.
So they're getting exposed to like women in their ward who are late in life feminists who like, you know, made all of the traditional choices and then suddenly decide when they're in their 50s they want to be cool and advocate for all these things that their life story doesn't really reflect. Like the lady with 5 kids who's been married for 20 years who suddenly decides she wants to be empowered and like advocate for these things that have no doctrinal founding. So
and that would actually harm the people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like
it would have harmed her if she'd lived that.
Yeah. And that's one of the things I actually started counseling moms to not do was and I got married later. So I got married later. I worked. I kind of came into motherhood a little later and you know, so I got to see like the risks of living that life, of like the risks of missing out on a family and how sad and lonely you could end up if you're not going to prioritize family life. So when I saw these moms who have gotten married younger and had a family and had a really wonderful traditional life saying to their daughters, travel the world. Marriage isn't what it's, you know, cracked up to be. Like motherhood really sucks. I remember I just was like, you know, don't be surprised if your daughters believe you and they choose, because don't be surprised if they take your advice and they say family life isn't for me. I want to travel. And end up being like, you know, giving up these. And I think Jordan Peterson says it well. My dad says it well. Like parenthood is peak life experience.
Well, can I just say, as the youngest person here who's in YSA currently dating in Provo, the girls did listen. And the young women of the church are not wanting to get married. I mean, you got the couple, but so many are like, I don't want to get married. I want to explore. I want to travel. I want to be a boss bee. I want to go make a bunch of money. And it's like, can we go get a milkshake?
Yeah, I'm getting a milkshake, but I just want you to know, like, I am literally independent. Like, I don't want. I'm like, geez, I don't even know your middle name. Like, I'm not trying to propose to you. No, it's a real thing. This massive independent movement, and it's what it's honestly going to lead to. It's just misery in your 30s when you're alone and
like,
sad.
Is it safe now to say that like the church and the brethren, I should say, I will call out the brethren of the church. For 40 years, they have let what we now call wokeism run rampant because they were afraid of what the crazy feminist in the fifth row would get up and say. And it's still running rampant. And the ones that are Trojan horsing the worst of every bad idea out there, whether it's socialism, proto-Marxism economically, whether it's natalism or nihilism emotionally, whatever it is, the people that are the tip of the spear, like even Boyd K. Packer was lambasted for saying intellectuals, the LGBTQ movement, and feminists, right, were the biggest enemies of the church. Well, the feminists have been the tip of that spear. They still are the tip of the spear. They're the biggest advocate of every single one of these bad ideas that has literally tanked our birth rate down to 0. We're talking science here, not emotional politics. Science. Like, in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, yet when will we have the guts to just say feminism has become an evil movement? It may have talked about human rights, like who do we give voting rights to? I'm the closest living relative to Clara Barton, one of the original suffragettes and one of the first people that advocated for the female vote. And I think that's a fair argument. Who do we let vote in our society? Do we let criminals? Do we let landowners? If you have 3 children, do you get more votes than somebody that has 1 children about whether or not we go to war? You know what I'm saying? Should we have ranked choice voting? Should we have individual voting? Should we have group voting? Like all of these things about voting rights, I think are human rights and are good basic questions. Feminism stopped doing that first wave crap literally 100 years ago. In the 20s, we left the voting question behind and now started all these psychosocial questions that have made it so that you can't even trust to send your daughter to BYU anymore, thinking she'll come back with a testimony wanting to have a family. She might literally get brainwashed into thinking that for climate change, she shouldn't have children, and she's really just a lesbian and never knew it.
Which is actually why I really appreciate what Rachel is saying here, because you just got to raise them better. You got to recognize other people are going to have an influence on them as well. But you as a parent have got to do your part in helping them understand the reality of the world that we live in.
Isn't part of raising them saying, though, like feminism has become a bad idea that leads to nothing but unhappiness? Don't adopt those ideas. And we need to renounce them in church, especially if they're coming from voices that are leading to misery, non-formation of families. We can't be the number one family church.
Well,
and then say,
play devil's advocate real quick.
Okay.
2 I guess not. They're one's released, but 2 female leaders of the church have been unmarried without kids recently. Sharon Eubank and
but being unmarried without kids doesn't automatically mean you're feminist.
I know, but Wendy Watson, right? She had no kids, was unmarried till President Nelson wifed her up, and so like.
I'm curious. I want to hear. I'm actually very curious.
I'm going to steal from
Rachel. Go ahead. I don't know if
you've heard of Kevin Samuels, but he took on this feminism in the Black community.
Did you just quote Kevin Samuels?
I love him, and every friend that I have struggling with marriage and having a marriage crisis, I'm like, you need Kevin Samuels in your life. But what does he say? You want to be an independent woman?
Shaming, name calling, need to be right? Oh, snap. Okay.
Right? He says, you want to be independent woman. Independent of what? Independent of men. I have never met a man who walks around saying, I'm independent of women. I don't need women. Because they recognize that relationships are healthy and that like the greatest happiness you're going to have in your life is your personal life. And yet we've somehow taught girls that like, you will be happy without relationships.
Well, it's the first thing God said after He made Adam. It is not good for man to be alone. There needs to be a romantic partnership there. That's a part of human life, and so it is kind of sad that we've pushed this whole narrative of. But to be fair, like I said, I do think some of this comes from, the divorced generation that raised my generation. It's like I get it. So many of them I don't want to get married. I saw my mom and dad argue like a drunkenly angry every night I'm not doing that. So again, I don't want to blame any generation, but
and
boomers
the laws,
who did that.
All the divorce laws now.
Yeah.
A guy is going to lose 85% of his assets and his wealth and will be financially ruined if he gets divorced. So unless you're 100% sure and lived with a woman for 10 years already, you know what I'm saying, then don't you dare put a ring on her finger or else you lose all that money. So I get why people are reluctant.
And could I ask, I'm very curious your perspective as a faithful Latter-day Saint woman. What do we need to, how do we help young women to not go down this path of the bitter, angry feminist who's 30 and realizes that she's made all the wrong choices up to that point?
And has 7 cats.
Kevin Samuels, baby. Okay, so I have 3 things for that. The first is I have a phrase that I've said to my husband because he is, both of his parents got divorced like 2 or 3 times, both of them. So this is very real. Like we have a very large segment of our church that has gone through, that has children of divorce. And so you can't lie to these kids and say like, it'll be a fairy tale, you'll be fine, because they know it can be really bad. So what I've always said to my husband is, we are our own best PR. Like, you want your kids to want to be married, show them how great it is. You want your kids to love having children, like show them how much you love having children. Like, I remember when I was kind of at a crossroads in my life career-wise, because I was working in the Middle East. I was really living my dream career, but I was getting older. I was getting late 20s, and I was talking about that conflict with my dad, and he was very gentle about just being like, man, you know, Rach, like the happiest time of my life was when I was raising you girls when you were young. It was the best. There's no experience on earth that beats parenthood. And then I also had a young women's leader, because I grew up in New England. So I had some really awesome young women's leaders, and she was an Ivy League trained woman, and she stayed home and had 5 kids. And it wasn't until I was older that I asked her, like, did you ever want to like pursue that career? And she's like, I thought I was going to, but then I just found out that I really liked raising kids. I really liked it. And so I think the personal and private is the greatest testimonial. We have to start watching the way that we talk about our experience in family life with these girls, because they are going to believe us. And a quick scroll, like, I know men tend to be on YouTube, women tend to be on Instagram. Go on to Instagram and type in like hashtag pregnancy, hashtag mom life. The vocabulary is so negative. It's like every girl that Kweku's dating right now is completely freaked out, because all she sees is that family life is the end of your independence. It's the end of all happiness. Like, why would any girl want to sign up for that unless she has a trusted person in her life saying, you know, I love being married.
Yeah.
I love being a mom.
And Rachel, my wife gets ads and articles targeting her all the time of like things that are like, why having kids was a mistake, and like all of these horribly negative things that I'm like, what in the
Canadian
world?
medical?
Imagine being that author's kid reading that, like, hey mom, yeah, so F me, right? Like,
the enormous selfishness that you have to like that I see in these things is just wild to me. So I love that you're talking about how we need to set that positive example, because Riley's currently working with the young women as well. My wife Riley is working with young women as well, and I think it's been so good both for her and for them, because they get to see someone who loves her kids, and they get to interact with one another. And it also, I think, gives her a little bit of hope to see kids who are being able to pick up on the things, like you're saying, they'll believe her when she tells them the good things and lives that example.
See, now here's Rachel coming up with something beautiful about how, you know, instead of trying to make public statements like we need to call out by name feminism from the pulpit that are very incendiary and akin to dropping napalm on social media, right? She instead takes a better path,
A higher and holier
a
way.
higher and holier path, and says we need to privately show people how much we love being mothers and advocate for positive motherhood. See, I was hoping you would just name out individual movements and feminists in particular, preferably in less than 60-second sound bites that could become YouTube shorts and Instagram reels. But instead, you took a higher path and said, we shan't see the mote in another person's eye until we take out the beam in our own and tell people how much we love being mothers. So you are just a shining and glaring example of all things beautiful about Mormon ladydom. And I hope that all the young women that are listening recognize that being a mom is super cool and awesome, and not what those freaking Instagram ads say, and not what all the nihilists and the anti-natalists say. It's freaking rad.
Yeah.
So what...
Also, just say, maybe we should make all the men, though, a bunch of not video game playing, vaping porn addicts who are mentally and emotionally unstable.
Yup.
Which,
Also that.
okay, I will say this, though. In Kweku's defense, Rachel, true or not true, women have become undateable because it's too risky for men. I think there's a toxic anti-man culture amongst the women that is a direct
This is
result
another
of
podcast.
feminism. And you want to do that? You want to talk that?
Yeah.
Another one?
Can I
Okay.
can I drop
100%, yes.
Yes.
can I drop
Yes,
one last line
100%.
here? As
Yes.
the one in this group with the most children, I asked my brother.
Scoreboard.
Pull that on the scoreboard, guys. I asked my brother. He has 5 kids, and my sister has. But we all are in the middle of raising young kids, and anyone who raises kids knows when they're young, you get your butt handed to you.
Yeah.
But the thing is if you sit there and just talk about how you're getting your butt handed to you, I asked him, I was like, have you ever thought about, like, why are we doing this? Why are we could be totally free in doing that. And we both kind of came up with the same thing where he said, at the end of the day, it's not only is it worth it, it's worth it times like 100.
Yeah.
It's the things in life that really mean the most are the things that often are the hardest. And so it isn't that being a parent is easy. It's that it's meaningful beyond compare.
Mm-hmm.
And oftentimes the most meaning is found in the things that are actually the hardest.
And it's something our church is uniquely positioned to emphasize because we actually have that materialistic relationship with God. We call out the creeds that stripped God of his anthropomorphic fatherhood. And we emphasize the fact that of all the titles God has chosen, he chooses father. He doesn't choose the magnanimous. He doesn't choose the great. He doesn't choose the honorable. He chooses father and makes the claim that he is our physical and spiritual father through eternal procreation that will hopefully result in our eternal progression. So,
Yeah.
Brad, I interrupted you.
It's just like that beautiful quote that Jesus never said and yet is on so many paintings of him. I never said it would be easy. I only said it would be worth it.
Which is total doctrine of the 70s that I'm pretty sure a modern prophet said. Now, before we go,
But
I just need...
it applies with our families. It, like Jacob said, it's so hard, but it's so much more meaningful, you know? And that's what I think our short-sighted society misses. They become so selfish and short-sighted that they don't recognize how much better your life will be when you make those sacrifices to have a happy family.
Yeah. So before we go, Rachel, I just need you to stare down the barrel of your camera right now really fast and just say, feminism is wholly incompatible with the doctrine of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So just before we go, could you just say that?
That's the hostage thing.
We're waiting.
Oh my
She's
gosh,
not-
I gotta remember.
She's not giving it to us. Bummer. I was hoping to get it. I was hoping to get a good intro.
Oh, she's going. She's going.
This is the outtake. Feminism is wholly incompatible with the doctrine of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Yeah.
There it is.
Yes. Hey, right on. She said it. Now,
I think it's true, and this is we can unpack that. And
okay.
one of the things I'll say that I've said to my young women, to Brad's point, and is one of the things that I had some young women ask me recently, like, do you miss your career? Like, because I really got to experience the apex of my career, like, and I loved it. And I said, one of the rude awakenings that I got to have, that most men do get to have in their career, is realizing that, like, I love this job and I think that I'm so indispensable, but at the end of the day, I am so replaceable. They will find 10 other people who want this job and that can do it as well as me or better. But becoming a mother or a father is literally you creating a calling that did not exist before you were on the earth. And when you suddenly have a purpose where, like, no one else can be a mother to your children, no one else can be the father to your children that you can be, when you suddenly find something in your life that no one else can do, that they need only you to do, there's a great sense of purpose. Basically, like, you are unreplaceable as the parent of your children. Once you kind of realize that's where you are actually needed, you know, the sacrifices you were talking about, it becomes about building legacy. You know, it's like, this is more than a job. I am building a legacy, a future that would not exist were it not for me. And that's a powerful rude awakening that I don't think if you haven't had time in a career field that you don't get to have. Sometimes I think for women, they don't have that career trajectory where they get to the point where, and I'm gonna, I think you guys have probably had that in your careers. I know my husband has it in his, where he's like, I loved my career, I was passionate about it, and at some point I got to the point where I was like, this is meaningful because I'm providing for my family.
Yep.
That's
That is epic. If you're trying to suggest that men preserve society while women preserve life, awesome. Rock on. Okay, so we got to jam, but we're definitely going to have you back on the program because you are great. Her name is Rachel Patterson. And what's your podcast? What's your socials? How can people find you?
You guys are awesome. So you can see me on YouTube. I have a channel called Women in Priesthood. And
Nice.
that's much it.
Okay, cool. This is Midnight Strike Through Mormons. We will see you guys in the next program. Hey guys, this is Cardinal Ellis. I'm the creator of Midnight Mormons. Thank you so much for watching this video. We know in an attention economy, you could be spending your time elsewhere, but you chose to spend it here with us. For that, we are grateful. Before you go to the next video, please make sure that you hit the like button. It tells the algorithms that you like our content and it will hopefully recommend more content in the future. Also, if you can, subscribe to our channel. It's a great way to be alerted of more content we make. And if you press that bell icon next to the subscribe button, you'll be alerted on every video we make. We put a lot of hard work into these and we want you to see all of our videos, so please subscribe. Also, if you would like to contribute, if you're feeling generous, please consider a contribution to the channel through Venmo. We also have contributions that you can give us through PayPal. There will be links in the description of this video to both of those platforms. If you're a giving person that prefers working through Amazon, we also have an Amazon wish list. Much of the equipment that you see in our studio is purchased through Amazon, and we're grateful if you could contribute that way. Also, somewhere around like here, I'd say, and somewhere around like right here is going to be a recommendation for more of our content that you might like. So please click on another video and we'll see you there. Either way, we're glad to have you here. Thanks for hanging out with us. This is Midnight Strike Through Mormons. We will see you in the next video.